The legend as old as stories themselves. It is as the ocean, timeless, alien, deadly. The legendary Kraken. Existing in the deepest, darkest abyss of the sea and our imagination. We're examining one of the earliest and most bizarre recordings, and something we have recently discovered this year that finally sheds light on the possible reality of the Kraken, and that may amend the Kraken paradox. I'm Arnonaut, and today let's dive into what this paradox is that has long perplexed historians and cryptozoologists, and how this recent discovery opens a door to the solution, and what the Kraken may have actually looked like. And maybe it's not what we always thought. One of the best, earliest, and strangest descriptions of what a Kraken is supposed to look like is written in 1752 by Erik Pontoppidan, a member of the Royal Academy of Sciences at Copenhagen. Amongst the many things, Erik writes, which are in the ocean and concealed from our eyes, or only presented to our view for a few minutes, is the Kraken. Erik continues with detailed descriptions of the Kraken's feeding habits, as well as its appearance in his book, The Natural History of Norway. He writes at length about fishermen's experiences with the beast. He states that fishermen will find large schools of fish in a small area of what should be deep water, yet the bottom seems to be much closer than expected. They sometimes see a thick layer of tacky sludge, said to be the excrement of the beast, that draws in fish. He writes of these encounters as if they are a somewhat regular occurrence. The fishermen say the fishing is good, and they only leave when they notice the water becoming more and more shallow, a sure sign the beast is about to rise, at which point a portion of it is finally witnessed. He describes the arms, which grow thicker and thicker the higher they rise above the surface of the water, and sometimes they stand up as high and as large as the masts of middle-sized vessels. It uses these arms to harvest the hordes of fish it has drawn in for consumption. This fits fairly well with the description of the Kraken we know best. However, his description continues and grows more and more strange. He there shows himself sufficiently, though his body does not appear, which in all likelihood no human eye ever beheld. Looks at first like a number of small islands, surrounded with something that floats and fluctuates like seaweed. Some bizarre details of some seaweed-like material that is somehow a part of the animal. Erik also writes later that he believes it to be some form of a polyp or starfish. Now, I'm not sure exactly how he comes to this conclusion. These writings are accounts of fishermen and not first-hand witnessed by Erik himself, which leaves a good bit of room for intellectual creativity. But then looking back at this guy, he does sort of look like the kind of guy who would think the Kraken is a starfish. Now real quick, this is still a new channel, this being my 5th video, and I just want to thank all of my viewers and subs from the last one. You guys are awesome. I do all of my own art, editing, and writing. All of the thumbnails, drawings, and paintings you'll see are all of my own hand. So seeing others enjoy the fruits of my labor is just incredible. So if you like anything you see, give it some hype. Oh, and I loved reading all of the different points and theories you guys dropped in the comments on the last one. I want more of that. It's always cool to see different people's perspectives on a topic. Cool shit. Now back to the video. These stories have existed for ages, but for science, it all started when strange shapes started appearing on the cool, rocky beaches of Loggy Bay in Newfoundland, 1873. Two masses of tentacles, giant squid, washed ashore. What's important about these two in particular is that they are the first to be properly recorded and photographed for science, making the existence of giant squid official in the scientific record. The photograph includes a 1-foot scale bar for size verification, proving their status as giants. Other huge squid would continue to be discovered. Later in 1925, the colossal squid was discovered in the stomach of the remains of a sperm whale. As time marched forward, more and more information would be collected, defining their morphology and behavior. So the implications are clear. The old legends must originate from these animals. But this is where the problems begin. You see, there is a great mismatch. We have all of these stories, accounts, and drawings of this thing bearing specific traits, yet the solution proposed doesn't rightly fit. There are a number of important behaviors and appearances completely missing from the giant squid when compared to that of the Kraken. These animals live exclusively in the lightless depths, never near humans, and are only seen above when dead, almost dead, or washed ashore, dead, which doesn't match the accounts of Eric or sailors of boat-sized animals feeding close to the surface or having tentacles wrapped around their hulls from a very alive and hungry animal. Of course, this can always be pushed aside as exaggerated tales of drunken seamen, but for the most part, not always, but generally they amplify the real traits and events witnessed rather than creating completely new ones. Giant squids do not properly fit the written accounts or descriptions of the Kraken. They are far too small. Even if you exaggerate their size, they still wouldn't come close. More importantly, their morphology or body structure is off. The Kraken has thick, muscular tentacles capable of moving things potentially as large as a person. Giant squid, on the other hand, have sleek, elongated bodies and tentacles, perfect for fast swimming and quickly grabbing fish, not so much for moving weight. Again, there is certainly exaggeration at play, regardless of the source. But for me, the shoe just doesn't quite fit. What if there is another source that better fits the morphology, behavior, and traits described? Then adding a healthy dose of fisherman's exaggeration makes for a near identical description to that of the Kraken, without the imperfections of the giant squid. This is the giant Pacific octopus. While most are not significant in size, this species has an extremely wide variance in growth potential. The largest recorded weighed in at 600 pounds, or 270 kilograms, with a radial span of 32 feet, or 9.8 meters. But what's more important is their behavior. They live close to coastlines, actively hunting and feeding off the local fish, exactly as described in Eric's description. They have even been known to ambush divers on occasion, using underwater ledges to surprise an unwary diver from above, a testament to their intelligence and willingness to consider new items for their menu. However, this species as is too small to cause much harm, and have not been linked to any confirmed deaths, unless there were no survivors, of course. Their morphology fits the Kraken's mugshot quite nicely. A wide and muscular frame, proportionally thick tentacles, and a widely splayed body matching the old drawings. All traits missing from the giant squid. However, the biggest issue, of course, still being size. But if scaled up, say bigger than a school bus, the match would be undeniable. Now, this year in 2026, a team of Japanese and German scientists using a technique called grinding tomography, which meticulously removes one thin layer at a time of a rock containing a fossil. Each layer is scanned slowly, building an exact recreation of the contents in 3D at the cost of the original fossil specimen. But with this data, they identified a beak fossil of the species Nenemothetus hagardi, and were able to estimate the larger size up to 62 feet long. This is absolutely massive. Now imagine a sailor encountering one of these in the wild. In his retelling, it would be 100 feet long, no doubt, truly and properly recreating the legend we know best. Now, it has long been speculated that octopus species were able to grow to these sizes, but until now, it remained speculation. This species obviously fits the writings, stories, and drawings perfectly. However, the little evidence we do have is tied to the late Cretaceous. But frankly, this is not sufficient to tie them to the Cretaceous exclusively. The very well-known coelacanth was believed to have been extinct for 66 million years because that's where all of our fossils are dated, just to be found straight chilling off the coast of South Africa in 1938. You see, fossilization is extremely rare and requires near-perfect conditions, meaning our fossil timeline is nothing more than tiny pinpricks of data in a vast ocean of the unknown. It can tell us when something did exist, but it can't give us hard lines as to when a species went extinct. All it takes is for conditions not to be met for fossilization, compounded by factors such as small populations to be fossilized in the first place, and the record is completely absent. So is it plausible that this species or one similar could have survived on the brink of extinction into humanity's early history? reclaiming our small vessels or grabbing an unlucky sailor on the rare occurrence that they crossed paths, only to pass into time, extinction, and legend before we were able to document them. Their stories passed along from generation to generation, clouding the original, very real and hungry horror of the deep. Personally, I obviously think that an octopus is a better candidate for the origins of the legend, but at the same time, there's no doubt that bodies of colossal and giant squid contributed to the legend. It's basically just that what we know as the Kraken better fits an octopus than a squid. But even that being said, looking back to Eric's early accounts with the seaweed-like appendages, if accurate, would indicate that it's something completely different entirely. And maybe Eric was right, and it was just a big-ass starfish. At the end of the day, there's no way to prove what people did or didn't see back in the day. But I want to know what you guys think down in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more.